Today we are going to start with the topic quasi contract. Okay, quasi means similar. Quasi contracts are also called as constructive contract. Means they are similar to contract. The resemblance is like there is something which is lacking, which is there in the contract. Therefore, they can't be called as a contract as such as per the contract law. However, by operation of law creates it as a contract. Law says call it as a contract because there is some object, and the object is based upon what? Equity. Equity states that nobody should be unfairly, you can say, he can suffer. One person should not suffer at the cost of other. One person should not get enrichment unjustly. So the principle of unjust enrichment, which is based upon equity, clearly states that we should create some rights and obligation in certain circumstances which are similar to contract. Therefore, they are called as constructive contract or contract which are created by law. Otherwise, how the contract is created? By the offer, by the acceptance of the competent parties with free consent, with legal object and all. Here, section 68 to 72 states about, you can say, 5 kinds of quasi contracts. But there is something lacking. It is a contract, but there is something lacking. Therefore, it cannot be called as a pure contract. Therefore, law as per section 68 to 72 states that there is something resembling. These relations are resembling those created in contracts. See, it is chapter 5. Chapter 5 states of certain relations resembling those created by contract. Certain relations resembling those created by contract. They are resembling to the relations created by the contract. Okay, therefore they are called as quasi contract. We'll see the definition. A person may receive a benefit to which the law regards another person as better entitled, or for which the law considers he should pay to the other person, even though there is no contract between the parties. Means actually there is no contract, but law says that there are certain rights and obligations as they are present in a contract. Therefore, the relations are similar to contract. Therefore, that is called as a quasi contract or constructive contract. This concept rests on the ground of equity, that a person shall not be allowed to enrich himself unjustly at the expense of another. Now, this principle of unjust enrichment is based upon 3 concepts. First is, defendant has been enriched by the receipt of a benefit. This enrichment is at the expense of the plaintiff, and the retention of the enrichment is unjust because the plaintiff is suffering unjustly and the defendant is gaining wrongfully. Therefore, this is something unjust as per law. Therefore, this is something which will create an obligation on the defendant that gives something to the plaintiff because he is at loss, and equity does not allow this kind of loss. Okay, law of quasi contract is also known as law of restitution. Restitute means to give back. A contract is intentionally entered into. Quasi contracts are not intentionally entered into, they are created by law. Okay, now this is concept of quasi contract. Now section 68 to 72, they speak about different kinds of quasi contract. We'll see the first. Claim for necessaries supplied to person incapable of contracting or on his account. If a person incapable of entering into a contract. Now, who are incapable to enter into contract? A minor, isn't it? A lunatic. They are not competent to enter into contract. So, section 68 is telling about supply of necessaries. If a person incapable of entering into a contract or any one whom he is legally bound to support is supplied by another person with necessaries suited to his condition in life, the person who has furnished such supplies is entitled to be reimbursed from the property of such incapable person. So 68 is telling that if a person who is incapable to enter into contract, he has got something as necessaries from the other, then his property will be liable to reimburse, to repay. We'll take an example. A minor. A minor is not allowed to enter into a contract. Minor's contract is altogether void. We have seen previously, isn't it? So, minor cannot enter into contract. But what we have done, we have provided necessaries to the minor. Necessaries does not mean only food, clothing and shelter. Other things suited to his condition of life, we have provided him education, isn't it? Many things we have provided which can be called as necessaries, which are suited to his condition of life. We have provided him lots of things. But we are having a right to take it back because section 68 is telling these are necessaries you have provided. Therefore, you can take it from the property of the minor. His property will be liable. But the things which you have provided should come in the category of necessaries. The supply of necessaries, you can recover the amount not under contract but under quasi contract. Okay, that is section 68. We'll take the example, that is an illustration here. A supplies B, a lunatic, with necessaries suitable to his condition in life. A is entitled to be reimbursed from B's property. Okay, and now section 68 is telling what? Not only B, not only the person who is incompetent, but his other relatives who is legally bound to maintain and all, to support. To him also, if you provide some necessaries, then you can recover that amount. You can get reimbursed. Okay, that illustration is the second one which is mentioned under section 68. A supplies the wife and children of B, a lunatic, okay, with necessaries suitable to their condition in life. A is entitled to be reimbursed from B's property. This is the first kind of quasi contract, where if you supply necessaries to those persons who are incompetent to enter into contract, or any other person who the incompetent person is bound to support, if you supply them necessaries suitable to his condition, then you can recover the amount under quasi contract. Okay, this is the first one. And now the second, that is section 69. Reimbursement of person paying money due by another in payment of which he is interested. Means you can say it is a payment made by an interested person. A person, first we'll see the section. A person who is interested in the payment of money which another is bound by law to pay and who therefore pays it is entitled to be reimbursed by other. Now what will be the essentials here? The person who is paying the money, he must be interested in the payment. Okay, so we'll see the essential requirements. First is the payment made should be bona fide for the protection of one's interest. And the second is the payment should not be a voluntary one. Third, the payment must be such as the other party was bound by law to pay. We'll take an example. A landlord and a tenant. Tenant is residing in the premises and he is getting notices from the government that the landlord has not paid the taxes due on the land, due on the premises. So what has happened? The government is sending the notice, and the step which the government is now going to take is they are going to attach that premises. They are going to sell the premises for recovery of that land revenue or recovery of the tax. So what the tenant does, because if the land has been recovered by the government or sold by the government, then the person affected is whom? Directly affected, the tenant, because his lease will be cancelled maybe. So the tenant pays all the dues. He is the interested person in that payment. He pays the amount on behalf of the landlord. Therefore, he is having a right to recover that amount under section 69 under quasi contract. Okay, so when a person who is interested in the payment of money which another is bound to pay by law and who therefore pays it is entitled to get reimbursed by the other. The example which you have taken states that if the tenant pays the land revenue which is due on the landlord, then the tenant is having full right to recover that amount from the landlord Under quasi contract, not under contract, because here contract is not there. Here landlord has not given him the offer and acceptance and all. Nothing is there. He himself is directly paying, but he is interested in the payment. He is connected in the payment. He will be directly affected if the payment is not made. So he pays it. Then he is having right to get the money back from the landlord. Okay. Now this is section 69. We have seen only 2 sections of quasi contract. The further sections we will see in the next video. Okay. Bye bye.